want to thank all of you for your faithful giving and your participation with Mike and Lisa. If you need more room, I'll take this off. But this is yours. And you guys share the impact God has put in you and everything else. So let's just let them know how much we love them as they come and just share whatever God's given you. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Liquid energy. We were up till 3 a.m. getting the pictures together, so if we seem a little, well, we probably are.
Can you hear me okay?
You're not Verizon, you can't ask that.
Hello? Oh. Okay. Well, first of all, we want to just let you guys know how truly humbled and appreciative we are of this opportunity. It was a trip of a lifetime, and I know there's people that have been there, and there's people that are longing to go there. And I would say, if you can go, it's just an amazing experience to see and be in the place in the land of Israel. And so anyway, so we're just going to kind of, now I got a couple of caveats on, okay? We know that a camera adds 10 pounds, so I had 5 cameras on me for the whole trip, okay?
Me too.
So just keep that in mind. We had close to 1,200 pictures, and we narrowed it down to about 1,150. So just hold on, and we'll try to get through them as fast as we can. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we don't want to be
Okay.
that family that goes on vacation. Y'all are like, oh my gosh, we got to sit through all the pictures. So we tried not to do that.
So anyway, but there was, it was a packed 10 days of seeing Israel. And we'll try and just kind of highlight some things. There was a couple of times where there were some poignant moments that we had while we were there. And so it was just an amazing time. So I guess I have to, did I hit this wrong?
Probably.
Oh, okay, there we
It's
go.
funny, he sits there and laughs at everyone that can't figure it out normally.
Well,
so.
I thought I didn't know if I clicked it on the way up here or not. So anyway, so we got there. We left on a Saturday. We arrived on Sunday, and our tour guide did it right because they had a smile service, and we were, by the time we got off the plane and into the bus, was no more than maybe 20 minutes. We kind of like breezed through passports and everything like that. We just walked straight there. So
Yeah, I mean, they literally took us past individuals and said, we're a group. And we
So-
got through he's not joking, 20 minutes on the bus.
So our tour guide wasn't messing around because we got on the bus and then we got to Caesarea Maritime. This is where our first tour. We don't have like I said, it's just kind of a day-by-day thing. And so this is where Paul was taken to Festus, and they had his trial, and Paul said, you know what, I'm going to appeal to Caesar. So this is kind of the area where that happened there. So, and that whole, from where we're standing all the way over to that other building in the background is all part of the same complex. So it was quite, when the Romans build their palaces and stuff like that, they don't mess around. They have palindromes, they have coliseums, they have just everything is included in these things, So anyway, so that's day one. We got done there, and then this is from our hotel. It was a sunset on our first night there and Sunday on that. So the next day we get up, and our first stop on the way to our next destination or our next hotel. This is in Nazareth, and this was such a cool. We didn't go to the church there for the where Jesus there's a church there that people go to. This was an organization. It's a Christian organization where they feed a meal. So like the lentil soup is supposed to be like what Esau served to his father Jacob, and it had, it was delicious. And Zatar, is that what? Yeah. And so there's hummus in there on the table. There's olives. There's some Zatar herbs, something with.
Sorry, Zatar.
What? Oh.
Yes, I wasn't microphoning.
Oh.
You're great, I'm not.
Okay. So all of that on there. We didn't get a picture of the food because didn't last long. And then everything was like they baked the bread pita bread on this oven right there, and they served everything fresh, and they were all in costume and stuff like that. And then, went too far. I thought I had another one in there. But yeah, they baked all that bread. It was hot and fresh coming out of the oven and stuff like that. Everything was fresh. We had baked chicken and, all that kind of stuff. So this was our meal before we went on this tour in Nazareth. And so it was kind of funny because it was next to or part of a YMCA there in Nazareth. And so we go there, and after we get done eating, they take us on this tour, and it's just kind of like you walk through, there's olive groves, there's grapes and everything like that, and you go to these
pomegranate trees.
Yeah, you go to these
Fig
different
trees.
stations, and so as you go through the stations, you can see where the wheat was grown. Everything they do is that they serve right there is grown at this place. All the bread, the flour, everything like that, or the olives, everything that's grown there is served at that restaurant. And so you start off on this trail, and you go down, and you can see where the wheat is grown, and they're showing all of this stuff. And then there's a place where there's a shepherd with sheep, and how they grind and thresh the wheat and everything like that, and everything and whatnot. And you kind of go through this trail. So one of the points is this potter, and he, the stuff that they make, these little lamps, and just different clay pieces. And so, but it was really neat that these people that are in costume, and they're sharing and just telling what they do and their story. It's kind of like the life of a typical life in what's going on in the Bible days. So the next one is just a short little video where he explains some of this stuff. But towards the end, just listen to his message.
Okay? And then they need to dry in the shade for about 2 to 3 weeks. And they cannot dry in the sun. Do you know why? Right, they crack. And if they crack, do you know what happens next?
Back in the pit.
Yes, and my dad will punish me. Yes. Did you see the donkey downstairs?
Yeah.
I will have to clean her place.
Oh.
So, while they dry, I can add things. For example, handles or holes or decorations. Then after a few weeks of drying, we need to bake them. Behind you, do you see the dome? That's the oven. They will bake in a very high temperature. And at the end of the process, they will be like those over here in the plate and in the corner. Hard, beautiful, and we can use them. So yes, this process is hard, as you can see. As you can see, it can take about 40 days, from mud to a complete and ready vessel. 40 days, yes. So this process, as you can see, is hard, but it can teach us a beautiful thing. Ladies and gentlemen, life like this process can be hard sometimes. Do you agree?
Yes.
We can have hardships, I'm sure we can have sometimes. Sometimes with our families, with our jobs, with a lot of things. But we need to remember that we are in the hands of God, and God is a good potter. He knows what to do with us. And you saw the clay can have hard times a little bit. The clay can feel pressure. We can too sometimes in our life. The vessels go through the fire, and sometimes things are hard in our life. But we know that He has good hands. That's why the end of the process is always good and beautiful, like the vessels. So if you're going through hardships, have faith. It's going to be okay at the end. We know that Jesus went through hard things also throughout His life and suffered and got crucified, but it had a purpose, to save humankind from sin. And the end of the story, like the end of this process, was good. He rose from the grave.
Amen.
We know also that Prophet Isaiah speaks about this process. He says, God, you are our Father, and we the clay. You are the potter, and we are all the creation of your hands. That's everything, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like a hug, just come closer.
And I did.
So it was just a neat experience to, to kind of do something a little different, and we did that. So that was one of the stations. Another station here is, was this Simeon? Yeah.
I can't remember his name. He was just so filled with joy. He
Oh my
just
goodness,
blessed
the guy
me.
was filled with joy. So he kind of taught us a little bit about why they trim the vine and the grapes and stuff like that. So you said, like right here, I mean, they really prune them back. And he said by the end of the season, this will be so full of grapes and just full. You won't see any sky or anything like that. And I was looking at some of the pictures that they had, and these grapes are like on, like this long and stuff like that, that are just amazing that they have, that they do in Jerusalem or in Israel. So it's just phenomenal that we know that Israel's coming back to life. We know that, it's growing everything. It grows everything from bananas to mangoes to olives to, there's nothing that they don't grow over there. And they supply all that food. They're an exporter of food. And we ate like kings over there. 3 meals a day, and fresh vegetables, fruits, watermelon over there. Their worst watermelon is probably about as good as our best watermelon over here. Yeah, it's just phenomenal over there. And so with all the walking and everything that we did, I probably gained it back, but I lost 5 pounds after, so.
Because, we were like, we got to lose weight, but the food was so good. And I don't care that it's the Mediterranean. I love that, but it's good for you food. But if you eat enough of it, you're still not going to lose. But we literally walked 8 to 9 hours a day, on and off the bus sometimes, but some days was just 8, 9 hours. And I was going to say real quick, we're quite the pair, because with my hips going up, I'm like, him going down, so it's like one of us drag or pull, so God knew what he was doing when he did this.
So a couple of sites that we saw before Nazareth, we stopped at Mount Carmel, where Elijah was taunting the prophets of Baal and stuff like that, and so we didn't get a chance to go inside because it hadn't opened up yet, but we just walked around and we just saw the landscape, and just the terrain is just unbelievable. Those guys are some tough cookies back in the Bible times. Just the ground and just the rocks and everything like that. Then after Mount Carmel, we went to Megiddo, and of course we know that that's where Armageddon's going to take place. And there was a lot of excavation, I don't want to call it excavation, archaeological, digs going on. And so they were exposing a lot. And a lot of our tour guide was more historical. So he was based on like different time periods, different kingdoms that came and what's the word I'm looking for? Destroyed that current civilization and then built on top of it. And so there's a lot of that going on. So, but we were at the top of Megiddo and just saw the valley of, yes, thank you, Jezreel. So my mind's, trying to keep this all cleared and stuff like that. And then we, from there, let me see, what's next? Oh, this is just one more. Every place has a synagogue. We know that, right? So this is just a template of a synagogue that was in there. He just was portraying one of the priests that, he would open up the scroll, read the scroll. And again, they had a message. Everything had just a little short message about the power of God, about Jesus Christ, and everything like that. And it was just a very, neat experience to kind of go through the lifestyle or the life, process back in the day on that. And let me see here. So the next day here we're at Beatitudes. We're kind of like touring all around the northern part of the Sea of Galilee. We went to Magdala. Then we also went to, and we had we'll get there here in a minute. But this is just kind of like on the other side of that wall. So over to your left, my right, is the Church of the Beatitudes right there. And that was just, somebody built it, and sometimes a lot of that information just goes right by me, but it wasn't so much the church, it was about the location. And if you look on the other side of that wall, so where that church is at, they say they don't think that that's where Jesus, did the sermon did the Beatitudes. But on the other side of that wall, there's just kind of this natural landscape of a valley or whatever. And right now there's a banana plantation in there. And so, but somebody said that they went down there to the bottom of that where the road is, and somebody was standing up on the hill, and he was just talking normal and can hear him just as clear as day. So that's, so you can get an idea of that there is, how did Jesus speak to 5,000 people? And that whole area just on the other side of the wall was a huge area on that. So that was Beatitude. And we had a nice time there where we were able to, the family that was with us, they went to an area that was kind of overlooking the Sea of Galilee, and they just had a quiet time. They just, shared some scripture and just prayed and, just reflected on the moment, reflected on what was going on there. And these are just some of the flowers that were there, just so beautiful, that vibrant colors and everything like that was there. Even plumeria, and this is known over in Hawaii, and it grows over there like crazy on that. So here we are at the Sea of Galilee. We're getting ready to go find out if anybody can walk on water, but needless to say.
He tried to push me over. I didn't.
So that's the boat that we were riding on. And then this is, so when we were at this part, for me, yeah, it was great to be in this area. But for me, I was just taking in the sight, because here I am, I'm looking at the landscape that Jesus was looking at. I was looking at, what the disciples were facing on a daily basis. I was realizing that here they were fishing, and just taking in what Jesus, just kind of being there and just realizing that this is what Jesus was looking at on that. So that there is looking east, and that's towards the eastern shore right there. This is probably where Jesus told his disciples to go over to the other side over there, and that's where they met with the crazy guy, the guy filled with demons and stuff like that. Just kind of, I don't know the exact location, but that's just the general direction that they're going to on there. And then this direction this is on the western edge, and then kind of like right in the middle of those mountains is Tiberias, the city of Tiberias, which is more Muslim-led in that area and stuff like that. And here we are, whoever is whatever nation you're coming from, they hoist the American flag and they do the Star Spangled Banner, and then they do, and it's just amazing. And then they did the Israel national anthem as well, and both of us lost it on that.
Yeah, it was really funny that, I was raised in such a patriotic home. You play national anthem or anything, I'm like, oh. We're both bawling during the Israel, and it's like, what's happening? It was just, there was such a spirit, you just can't.
Yeah.
I mean, for the first time, Lisa Mosier's almost speechless. So I just cried a lot there. I just cried a lot because it's just the spirit. And it was like the national anthem or whatever they played was great, but being there, hearing that was like, you just can't. It takes your breath away.
Yeah. And just the fact that we support Israel. There was a bond there, and so that meant a lot. One of the other things too, while we were on the boat ride and everything like that, the captain of the boat, whoever, he had us up dancing and singing on the boat. We were all doing some form of the hora. I don't know.
I think it was Hava Nagila. Hava Nagila.
Yes. Yeah, Hava Nagila. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, something like that. So anyway, it was just a lot of fun on that. So anyway, so that was that. We came back. And then we went further up north, let me see here, to tell Dan. And we're here to tell Dan that we went up to tell Dan, okay?
And you could have gone with us.
So there were some other sites. I mean, there's a lot of other sites that we saw in between some of these, but we're just hitting the highlights. We went to Chorazim. Chorazim is one of the villages or towns that Jesus cursed. Tel Dan is kind of, it's further north, and this is probably one of the oldest historical sites that we visited. So this is just kind of a replica of the gate that Abraham probably walked through. Okay, so it was just phenomenal to see that. There was other ruins that we, Tel Dan ruins. I'm telling you, Dan, okay? So just kind of bear with me. So that's the backside on that. So they found this, and again, they're just but this is the actual gate that Abraham probably walked through at Tel Dan. And it was just to know that you're standing or in an area where people were just going through back, this is like Genesis 14 time period. And that's how close you are to the beginning of the world,
I mean, I stood there, I was like, how are we standing here?
Yeah.
You're just like, how can we be standing where the actual, it was just, I don't,
Yeah. So it was just kind of, that's one of those moments where you're just like, oh man, you're just taking it in and realizing that. So we went again to Caesarea Philippi, which was part of that whole region. Here we're at, yes, a place, Golan Heights, there
how
we
did
go.
you know?
So here we're at Golan Heights, and then we're on top of this mountain where I believe it was either the Syrians or the Jordanians, held, and then of course Israel took, whatever. But this whole mountain was filled with trenches and parapets. This is in the 1960s, and Six-Day War. And if you look, I don't know if you can see, but there's a line. Let me see if I can do this. Nope, you can't do it. But just to the
I would show you, but I can't reach.
right of right of Lisa, there's kind of a line right there, and that's the border to Jordan, and on the other side is Syria and stuff like that. So it was just one of those places that we were. That's as far north as we were.
Is that where to the left of you is a big wind farm, the big turbines?
Yeah, a little bit further after.
It's like, geez, you go there and you see those stupid things also.
Yep. What was that, Naomi? Yeah, there's a town down there, but yeah, it's just on the other side of that is Syria. Yeah. Kind of down where you see all those farm fields, but then there's a lake, and then just above the lake, in that area, there was a town that was very heavily bombarded, and the modern city's a little bit further north, but that's the older city, and they're starting to rebuild in there. So on that, so that's the Golan Heights right there. Here we are in the Sea of Galilee.
Bathing beauties.
Yep.
Look at all that white skin.
Yep. So now we can actually say that we swam where Jesus swam, and Peter dumped in the fishies and stuff like that. But
And I'm telling you, 3-foot waves. It was like I was back in California riding the waves. It was nuts.
it is uncanny.
So
yeah,
I have to say something real quick. So I'm like, the whole time, like, why is it Sea of Galilee when it's a lake? Okay, does anybody remember what J.L. used to say, why things are tradition?
Yeah.
I literally Googled, why is it called the Sea of Galilee when it's a lake? It said, tradition.
Yeah.
That's how they do things over there.
So it's, during the day, it's pretty calm, but that evening, I mean, you can understand how a storm can come up on that sea. And this was a nice day, and it was like 3 to 4 foot waves towards the end of the evening and stuff like that. That's what made
Needless
it
to
fun
say, I
and
did a
everything.
lot of jumping
Yeah.
to not drown.
So,
Because I was out to about here,
yep.
and it was,
So in a 24-hour period, we swam in the Sea of Galilee, we got baptized in the Jordan, and by that evening, we were swimming or floating in the Dead Sea.
did
So-
not like that.
Yeah, it was, I'm telling you, this tour group, I mean, it was nonstop. I mean, we were beat. I mean, we slept well, let me just put it that way.
And I'm telling you, jet lag and that is not for wimps.
So this is the place where we got baptized in the Jordan. I had the opportunity to baptize Lisa.
I have to say something there. When you're married to a man, because I just figured there was someone maybe that works there that does it. And when your husband walks up to you and says, as the priest of the home, would you be okay if I baptized you? I said, no, of course, no, I'm lying. I was just broken. I couldn't believe that it mattered to him because it never crossed my mind. And for him to ask, I'm just like, this is the man I love, who asked me if he could baptize me. It was the most incredible thing.
I don't want to take anything. I wanted to hold her under real, just
Yeah,
to make sure.
that was, oh, I asked him that first. I said, how long are you going to keep me under? No, I promise, I won't.
So,
Some priest
but
of
that
the
was
home.
just another great moment that we had, that we were able to share. And then this is where, that's our tour guide, our tour leader. She's the one that coordinated everything, and she's actually from Vermont or up in that area. And then I know that. Anyway, so she volunteers for the organization that we support and everything like that. And she actually stayed there. She's staying there for another 2 months. And it's all on your own dime. They don't, it's just a volunteer. So she baptized me, and I was just sharing to her why I wanted to be baptized. And I'm like, well, I don't think the first one worked. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying it's about friggin' time.
Yeah. So her name's Jill, by the way. And
It's not
then
her last
this
name.
at the end, when we were both done, we did that. And there was a whole group of us. There was and this is
And I am on my tiptoes, and he's bending down, just so you know.
and then this is just another angle of the Jordan River that's going south on that right there. We wanted to throw this in there just to kind of lighten the mood. This is the bathroom situation here. So you don't sit on the rock, you sit in between the rocks, and so
But
we have
Eric was demonstrating.
one of our
Not
members
literally.
of the tour group wanted to go down and just kind of demonstrate that. But yeah, so that's just in case you were wondering, we didn't have to use those, but yes, that's and this was at an old site that was built by the Romans. And again, this, whenever you see a mound, there's probably about 4 or 5 civilizations under that mound. That they destroy it, they crumble it, then they build on top of it, and then they just keep. And so at this location here, this was Bet Shean. They explained, so they had in one of the main thoroughfare with the street and everything like that, and they had sidewalks on the side, and they're explaining the daily life and the booths for people selling their wares and stuff like that. And about that much later, so they had original marble here or tile work, and then on this layer right here was more, and they said about that depth is about the history of the United States. And you're looking at what, the number of years, there was probably 4,000, 5,000 years worth of history at this location as they were digging it up from the archaeological finds. But we just wanted to let you know. So here we are at the Dead Sea at our hotel. That's looking
Not too shabby, huh?
looking north that way. There's somebody floating in the Dead Sea.
That was the only happy moment on the Dead Sea, let me tell you.
And Dan, no joke, that salt is not, that
It
messes
don't
you
taste
up.
good, and it don't feel good in the eyes. And I'm telling you, Jill told us, we're like, so what do you do? She goes, just walk till you feel like you are going to flip over. And I'm like, what? And she's like, you'll know. So I'm like, la, 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 woo-ah.
Yeah.
You're literally free. And I don't think I ever calmed down.
She was-
I just could not get it. It kept on. My sister said maybe my legs weren't long enough to balance me. I don't know, but I just kept wanting to flip. I'm like, I'm out. After I got salt in my eye and he splashed it in my mouth. That was
trying
my
to
only.
save her. I was trying to save her,
No, you're trying to dunk me again.
No,
Don't
I wouldn't do
even
that.
try.
Not there. Not after what Dan said,
Even go there. So,
So-
them are some white legs and my only happy moment on the Dead Sea.
Yeah. So that was, quite the experience there. And that's the sunrise the next day. So we got up and we were moving again. So again, that was from the time we were in the Sea of Galilee to that moment was 24 hours. Here we are at Masada. So we went, it's just amazing the history and the commitment of the Jewish people. And there's always, theological debates about, there's just a little under 1,000 Israelites that committed suicide because the Romans were taking, it was 3 years for these guys to build the ramp to get to these guys. And they showed us the areas in there that they had enough supplies. they had enough food and water to last however long they wanted to last. Just the way that, and they lived off of grains and everything like that. And they left it there for the Romans. And it was not to say, they weren't scared or whatever. It was to say, hey, you know what, we could have survived even longer if we needed to. And so the Romans were pretty upset that they weren't able to do anything and stuff like that.
I need to, so from that, people had different, I didn't like history in school. Don't read the Bible like I should. Didn't read the Bible like I should. So I didn't know anything about this. I didn't get it. I didn't know. When Alan was talking, and he's talking about these 900 that the men talked. And as the priest of the home, to decide that you're going to, little ears are gone?
Yeah.
That you're going to kill your wife, kill your children, and then y'all decide which man is left. And how factual, whatever. I just was so moved at the fact that in the world today, there's Christians that if there's a home invasion, they will let things happen to their wives because the Bible says do not murder. As a priest of the home, you're called to protect. And the men in this room are priests of the home that would protect their families. And for these men to make the decision to take out their wives so they're not violated by the Romans, to take out their children so they don't become slaves, and then sacrifice themselves. That is the priest of the home. If that is actually, like I said, it's what Alan said, so I believe him because, I'm easily swayed or whatever. But I was just so moved at these men making the call to protect their wives and protect their children and then sacrifice their own lives just so they couldn't conquer them and take advantage of them. And then to leave the food to say, we weren't going to let you have us.
Yeah.
And you weren't going to have my wife, and you were not going to have my children. What greater thing for a father and a husband to do. I was just so moved by it.
Yeah, it was pretty sobering to think that, what they went through. And, and it just, it epitomizes the Jewish culture and their tenacity and just, we're not going to bow to anybody. We're not going to bow to no man. We only have God, and that's who we're going to serve. What happened? Oh, there we go. And so, again, like every place you go, there's a synagogue. And this is one of the synagogues on the top of Masada. And this is probably where they had that discussion. Well, what are we going to do? Who's going to do it? How are we going to do this? So that's where all the men and the leaders gathered to discuss what they're going to do once the Romans finally breach the gate. And I don't know, it's hard to see, but there's kind of like this black line right about here. You can see it across there. Everything below that black line is original. The black, and then they just kind of built up on top of it. Did a little reconstruction there. So that's one of the synagogues. There's a guy.
By the way, the best shot of the trip.
Yeah. What?
I'm quite the photographer.
No.
Best shot of the trip.
Oh. Guy contemplating life. And here we are. Now we left Masada. We went to Engedi because the next three sites are right in a row. And so this is where David hid from Saul. He ran into Engedi, and it just kind of boggles your mind. You look out at the landscape of that area by the Dead Sea, and it is barren. It is rocky. It is hot.
When they say desert, they're not joking.
Nothing out there that would appeal to anybody to live in that region. And here you got people running all over the place. Kings running after David. David finds it, and this little oasis, if you will, is in a canyon in that same desert where. Let me back up.
Yeah, almost 300 steps to climb to get up there.
I don't know if you can see it. Well, we didn't have quite the terrain, but if you go if you look there, those mountains there, it's just ugly. And Masada's just down a few way, there. So, but anyway, so here we are at Engedi. This is like at the top. You can go a little bit higher if we had time, but this is where the waterfall starts, and David was in there, and but probably up towards that side are some caves where he probably hid, and where Saul relieved himself, somewhere up in there. And then that's looking out where you can see the Dead Sea in the foreground there, but you can see the canyon wall, the walls there. It's just rock.
And the stairs we climbed.
Yeah. So that's Engedi. Here we are at Qumran. That's one of the caves that they found the Dead Sea Scrolls in. And here we are again, letting you know that we were actually there. So after we got done here, then we went to Jerusalem, and we checked into our hotel there. This probably for me, Yeah, I didn't. Probably, okay. So we checked into our hotel, and then Jill had arranged through some friends that work at Bridges for Peace and stuff like that to have a Shabbat evening. We had a Shabbat meal at the hotel. And so we'll just kind of go through it here. So the ladies went out, and this is in a kind of like right before you go into the restaurant where they serve the meals and stuff like that. But the leader of, or the couple, the wife came out and brought all the women with her, and they lit the Shabbat candles out here. And they recited they gave us the little service order, but the lighting of the candles and things like that on that. And then, of course, before the meal, this is our group of people here. The couple at the very far end, Terry and Ronnie, were the guests that led the Shabbat service for us. So it was, we went through the service. They did all the blessings, like while... Well, when they all come back, part of it is like, Terry would say, okay, what are the names of your sons? And we all went around and we named our sons. And then he did the blessing over the sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And then after he got done with the blessing there, then he would go around and, somebody said, well, I have daughters too. No, we'll get there. And just, so he did the daughters. And then, so we all named our daughters. And then he did the blessing for the daughters. God make you like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And so we did that. And then, of course, like again, they do the wife reading the Proverbs of 31. And then for the husband, Psalms, they blessed is the man who doesn't walk in the counsel of the wicked. So he did that. Blessing over the wine, blessing over my whole challah bread over there. In the hotel, they had small loaves, so we had a couple of those. And of course, why do you have 2 loaves? That's because, you had to get twice the amount you needed, because when Israel was in the desert, they had to, on Shabbat, you got twice what you needed because you're not supposed to work on the Shabbat and on that. So they kind of went through all of that. And there were some songs that we sang, and we're in the hotel doing this. We sang the traditional songs and everything like that. There was 2 or 3 of them. And then it hit me that we had a Shabbat meal in Jerusalem. And I don't know why it was so hard, but I couldn't even talk to the couple that led. I would walk up to them like, oh, this was, and I would just lose it. And I don't know why, but it was just a moment where God really, that one day we will all be eating a Shabbat service in Jerusalem, and to experience it in Jerusalem. Yes, we have Shabbat meals here. We, recognize Shabbat services. You know, we do it here and stuff like that. But, you know, when I was there, it was like, that was probably one of the most profound moments that I experienced while I was in Israel, is to be able to do something that was done for generations in Jerusalem. You know, Jesus had his Shabbat meal. I mean, that's what he did at the Last Supper. It was a Shabbat meal. There was, you know, and you keep going back and further until, you know, Moses, you know, the one that kind of instituted this whole program. And it really just hit me really hard. And it was such a neat experience at that moment on that, when we got there into Jerusalem. Do you have anything else you wanted to share?
So on that, I had 2 opportunities with Terry, the husband. I shared a little bit this with Josh and Sarah the Sunday we got back, or that weekend. I was talking to him about our church. And I shared with him about how we have the Western Wall on the east wall of our church, and that we blow the shofar, we pray, and we face that direction. And you know, Christians have not always been good to the Jews. And a lot of them, we all know from people speaking here, that's why they don't always want to hear the word, because of way back then. So anyway, I was sharing with Terry what our church does, and we do the Seder, we do da-da-da-da-da. He blows the shofar, and he's like, wow. And I said, there's times we have husbands and wives, there's 10 people, and we're blowing, and their reaction of knowing that there are Christian churches in the U.S. doing that for them blew him away. Because I don't know that they find it that often, because you allow it here. I know God, yeah, da-da-da, but thank you because you allow it. And then we were having dinner. I had a little asthma thing, blah, blah, whatever. So I walked out, came back, and there's the cutest little girl I've ever seen in my life. I'm sure Sarah was cuter, but this little girl was adorable. And then you got the Brunker girl, Jiminy Cricket. So just gorgeous and cute as a pie all around. So, but this little girl, just little pigtails, dark hair, big eyes, cuter than pie, kept looking over there. So I go out to do my inhaler, blah, come back, and the guy says, can I ask you a question? Where are y'all from? Da-da-da. So I stood there with him for, 20?
Yep. And this is, just to kind of preface, this is just a family that's staying at the hotel. They're Jewish. They're Orthodox Jews. They had the yarmulke on, and, you know, and they're just doing their thing. And, you know, of course, Lisa's not afraid to talk to anybody, you know, so she just, and so the kid is a natural, adorable kid. So anyway, that's kind of, it's just nobody of a group, nobody of a tour, they're just in the
Just
hotel.
there.
Yeah.
So yeah, he said he could overhear us talking. And he said, you're saying things like Christian, you're saying things Jewish, you're saying, so it really intrigued him, which I just love that he heard. And I mean, he was brought to tears when I told him what we do in this church. And I said, we stand and face that wall. We're facing east. And he's like, you guys do that for us? He said, I'm so moved to know that there's Christian churches that are praying for us here. You know, and I made the comment about, I know Christians always have, he goes, people need to get over that. So it was neat to hear him say that he's not one holding. But I just can't reiterate enough the look on his face when I said he blows the shofar and we face east. So we're facing where you are. And I mean, he's got tears in his eyes. It was, besides the Shabbat dinner, which hit you harder, because, you know, I don't always get things. I'm like, meh, okay. No, that wasn't cool, don't get me wrong. But then that was the topper for me, was that conversation for that man to hear that we care about them. He was so moved. It was really cool.
Yep. So just know, I mean,
It makes a difference.
it does. The Jewish people over there are just overjoyed to hear about people that are praying for them and celebrating the things that they celebrate. That we are common. We have one God. Not, you know, we don't serve two different gods. We have one God. And so we share in that relationship with that. And then the next day we got up and we did a lot more sightseeing in Jerusalem. So this is one of the, it's not the path, but it's just the path that people recognize nowadays of the Via Dolorosa. So we walked that through, and you can see the streets, in Jerusalem there that we were walking through. And again, this is probably one of the paths. And we were on our way. So at one point we stopped at the Holy Church of the Sepulchre. That's just, I didn't sense anything there. It was just an what's that? Yeah, commercialized church that, and I, like I said, I appreciate other religions, if you will, go, and that's kind of their mecca, they want to, whatever.
Yeah, they're rubbing all their stuff on the stone that they think was, and you're just like,
Or-
okay, well, if that works for you.
Yeah. So it's just,
We know what really
so
works.
it really, we didn't, she had a couple of pictures, that were cool just because of the sunlight and the glass and everything like that. And we went down to where they say the Holy Sepulchre is down there, and that was just eerie, It was just eerie. It was a dark hole, and they let some people, if you wanted to walk into it, that's fine. Not me, and you'll find out a little bit later why. But this was just,
Chicken.
it wasn't something that I wanted to do there. But so that was part of one of the things that we did. So here we're going through, and we were walking, and we walked over to the Garden Tomb. And so this was a little bit more, inviting. It was a little bit more real. I think, because they have two separate locations, the Holy Sepulchre and then this one right here, the Garden Tomb. And so here, and you can see that where those plants are is where the stone was that would roll back and forth in that groove right there. And so we were allowed to go inside there. It looked a little bit more, I don't know how to explain it, but just more authentic. Thank you.
So glad you're here to help.
Yes.
Because I'm not doing much.
So it was a lot more authentic. You were able to walk into kind of like where where they prepared the body, and then they had it gated off where the body was actually laying. But the part is, he's not there. We know that, and we have pictures of the inside, and we're not going to show those. But it's just how beautiful this spot was, And this is, when you go in this, it's peaceful. It's gardens, and it's just, a completely different atmosphere from the other one that we were previously at. And so here we are standing in front of the Garden Tomb, and then...
I actually absolutely lost it in there.
Oh, yeah.
Not sure. There were just times I was someplace and snotting all over myself. I just did a lot of crying. Just certain places move me at the thought. I know it's probably not whatever, but
Yeah.
to stand and look and think, overwhelming.
Yep. And then Golgotha is just like not too far away from this spot right here, so it makes more sense. And then at the end of it, we were able to go to that little area, and we had communion there. So that's just the tree, and then you can see the service elements that were there. And so we just had a time of reflection, a time to realize what Jesus did for us on the cross, and that he is not, that the same spirit that was in him dwells in us now, and he overcame death, grave.
You're so close.
Yes.
And I can't help.
What's that? Yes, there we go. That other place, hell, death, and
Glad
the
you're here
grave,
too.
and we have overcome that as well. We have overcome that as well because there's an empty tomb right there, and like Jack pointed out earlier, the men that wanted to be God, they're still in the tomb.
Yep.
They're still, buried someplace. Next day, we went to this is from the Mount of Olives, and there's the walled city of Jerusalem. There's these gates right here. Bear with me. I don't know if you can see them, but they're kind of like over here. Those are not the original gates. The original gates are down a lot deeper, and those are the ones that Jesus is supposed to walk through when he comes back. Kind of an quick, interesting story is that Alan, our tour guide, said that at one point somebody was digging and excavating, and they found the original gates. And the Muslims got panicked and everything like that, and they buried it all back up again. So that they think, well, we'll just bury it. He's not going to go through those gates. Well, when he splits the Mount of Olives, I think that's going to make a great opening for those gates for him to go through.
They don't know who they're
like
messing with.
But it was just, you see the Dome of the Rock there. I mean, there were some people that were actually able to go up on the Dome of the and kind of tour in that area for about 30 minutes, and then they kicked them off because they had some kind of service going on, stuff like that. So that's from the Mount of Olives. Then here we go. From there, we walk down to the Garden of Gethsemane. And just to kind of preface a little story that Lisa's going to share, or we'll both share a little bit. But so there's the Garden of Gethsemane where you can walk in and you can see all the old trees and everything like that, and everybody walks through. Where our tour guide, just across the street, which is an extension of the Garden of Gethsemane, is a private area where you can reserve it, and then you can go over there. And we had a little devotional, and then she just said, why don't you guys find your own spot and just have a time of reflection or whatever you want to do, prayer, whatever. So Lisa and I, we go find this spot, and it's kind of on the further end of it.
Searching for shade.
Yeah, everybody's looking for shade. Let's see who can find the shadiest spot. And so we all found a shady spot. The part where we were at was kind of like not the best, but you know what it did? We sat on a bench, and there's all these little chairs or stools that were all over the place so people can just sit on those. And they were all around us, and it was just Lisa and I sitting on this bench, and we just had a moment of prayer. And so I just said, how are you doing?
After you shared what you've been dealing with the Shabbat meal.
Oh, yeah. Just, we shared a little bit how things are affecting us and what God's doing and stuff like that. And so I just asked her how she's doing and what's going on in her squirrel box. And
Did you say squirrel box?
yes.
Man, did he nail that one. I can't even be mad about that. It's not even rude.
So anyway, so we get done prayer, and we get up because we got to be at the entrance by a certain time. We had about 15, 20 minutes. And so I look down, and
Do I get to share what I told you first?
oh sure, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, see, squirrel box.
You're the one that's squirrel, dude.
I know.
So I'm not sure quite what happened. I don't know at what point. I know a lot of y'all know my testimony and spent most of my life broken. So there was something about being in Israel that I felt broken. It wasn't the old Lisa's worthless. It wasn't all the garbage that's gone. But I just felt broken. And I had talked to Dan, and I think Bill, some others maybe, about Lisa, little old Lisa, who's been overlooked her whole life. People don't want to hear what I have to say. They don't value what I say. We're past tensing if I didn't say it, sorry. And so I was in the kitchen, I'm crying, I'm talking to Dan, and there's some other people, I don't know if it was Kim, I can't remember, I'm sorry. But I just was like, Lisa, little old Lisa, and I don't mean old, little old Lisa, gets to go to Israel because people love us enough to do it, that I get to walk where he walked. Little old me, who doesn't matter in the realm of nothing. And all that brokenness came back up. But not the worthless part of it, just the thoughts of being broken. So as we're sitting there, and he says, so what, because I hadn't said a word. I don't want to be the, party pooper. Oh yeah, I feel broken, my great Israel trip. So I just kind of stuffed it. Thanks for waking up, Gino, because this is a really good story. You know I love you, dude. So I just was feeling, I can't describe, like I said, it wasn't like I was that mopey old broken Lisa. There was broken. I don't know how to describe it. So he asks, and I tell him I've just felt broken since we've been here. Just things are welling up. And of course, the rabbi at the last night Said obviously not everything's healed then. So like it was just different because I felt good that it wasn't the whiny, broken Lisa. There was just brokenness, really the reminder of it or something. So anyway, so I told him about that. Now you can scroll back to where you're at.
So we're getting ready to get up, and I look down, and next to one of those stools is a bracelet, that was still together and everything like that. And she's wearing it, but it was a bracelet that was, I just like, wow. And nobody else had been in there. I have so it's not like we can go find somebody, hey, did anybody lose a bracelet? This was, because it was just off the beaten path. Nobody else had been there. So I found this bracelet, and I said, okay, well, here's a gift from God for you, and it's got a few different charms.
It's got like a fruit tree, which I know I'm fruity, so I'm sure it has to do with the spirit, but it's also because I'm fruity. There's a flower, which I kind of feel is blossoming. Tree of life, which explains itself. There's a butterfly renewal or transformation. And then there's a starfish, and I had to Google that one because I love starfish, but it's like, okay, what do you mean? I keep pushing on the button, sorry. So the thing it said for starfish and like octopuses because they can renew their legs, and so renewal. So, and it's pink, which, hello.
So how cool is that? I mean, God just provides these answers, while we're going through things and through life.
And then, so we're walking out, and I just keep looking at it, and the thought hits me. I'm like, how do you lose a bracelet? They normally fall off because they broke. How else does a really good bracelet just fall off your arm? So as we're walking, God said the bracelet's not broken, and neither are you.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So.
And then it left me. Hallelujah.
So again, this is in the Garden of Gethsemane where Jesus was broken, and he was, but the bottom line is he still submitted to the Father's will, regardless of what was going on. To the point of brokenness, took him to completeness.
Only God could orchestrate that.
Yeah. And so this is on the other side where everybody's walking through, and this is supposed to be one of the oldest olive trees in Israel right there. Okay, this is where it gets scary.
My favorite part. Except I had to do it without him.
Dan knows about this. So this is the entrance into Hezekiah's tunnel. One of the things that we realize there, so there's the city of David. There's just very small parts that have been dug up. And when we got there, there was like this whole neighborhood that they had to, I guess when they were building a parking lot or whatever, they found some ruins. And so they started digging down and realized that this is more of the city of David ruins. And so they tore down all the houses that were built on top of it, and they're excavating this whole area for the city of David. And it's just phenomenal, just when you actually get to see where everything's laid out, how the city of David is compared to the temple and where the temple was at and where the ark was, stored and everything like that. So anyway, this is, of course, where, Hezekiah started, digging a tunnel so that they can have water when they were surrounded by the Assyrians, and that they wouldn't let them, they just wanted to make sure they had water. And it's kind of important part of life is water. So we're going down, and this is not the entrance. I had a little diversion where I was not going through that tunnel. And Dan, you were absolutely right.
Claustrophobic he is.
Oh, I was like having...
When they were talking about going in, he was... You could see it.
I was freaking out. So anyway, so this is...
I didn't find it funny at all.
There was an escape, and even that escape tunnel was a little bit... I was only glad I was the only one going through it at the time, and okay, and then when I got out, I had a nice leisurely walk to meet him at the exit. So here we go. There she is in the tunnel.
In the tunnel.
Down there.
All the glory of the tunnel.
This is the point where they met.
They met in the middle from the two sides.
Yeah, because they were going from opposite directions, and it's amazing how they just met right there in the middle.
I mean, they could have been.
So
Only
there's
God.
the middle part. That's how narrow it was. I'm like, holy mackerel.
Oh my gosh. 2 feet wide, okay, 1,740 feet long of that. Water to most people's above the ankle to below my knee. Trudging, 65-degree water for 1,740 feet, 2 feet wide, 5 feet. I even hit my head twice. Not bad. Well, it might have knocked me a little sillier, but I'm not
And
sure.
you wonder why I didn't want to go through it.
Hey, there were people as tall as you that went like
I
this the
know,
whole
but-
way. And their necks and backs hurt when they got out. But literally, most of the spots are 5 feet, but I still hit my head twice. One of
So-
the coolest things ever.
So, yeah, that's somewhere in the middle. And then they told them to turn off their lights, and then there's the light at the end of the tunnel.
Which, how cool is that? Light at the end of the tunnel.
And there she is coming out of it. So I was at the other end waiting for them to come out. So it didn't take me long to get where they were coming out. So there's that. So when I got out and walked down, I went down the hill, and then at the bottom of that hill was the Pool of Siloam. And that's going through a lot of archaeological digging and stuff like that. They're kind of finding out there's more there. And there's just, you see they kind of have pictorial, like what it would have looked like back in the day. And like there's the pool, and you kind of walk up the hill to the temple, and there's all these mikvahs that you have to go up to and stuff like that. So anyway, it was just kind of cool to be able to see that and then meet them at the exit of that. This is right at the entrance of the Pool of Siloam, and it just kind of symbolizes the King David and his harp. And
So my wonderful husband, who I guess loves me so much, crazy old man, we were in, where was it?
Sea of Galilee.
Was Sea of Galilee? Okay. We were looking at, he was looking at necklaces while I was goofing around somewhere else, which I should be the one looking, but, so he bought me this David's harp, and it actually has the Nano Bible in it. So for those that don't know, it is a nano chip, and on the front, if you got a microscope, bring it, I'll show y'all. On the front of it is the complete Old Testament in Hebrew. Flip side of that nano chip is the complete New Testament in Greek. So if you look at it, if you want to look at it after, I'll just stand like this. No. But I'm talking nano chip, and the entire Bible in Hebrew and Greek is on this nano chip. And with
Yeah.
the microscope, you can see it.
Yeah.
You can read it if you can read Hebrew and Greek. I
Yeah.
can't, so I'm just wearing it because it's pretty.
There you go.
But I have the Bible with me everywhere I go. It's right here. I have the Word. It's supposed to be here and here. I also have it here. I'm like 3 times covered.
Okay.
So I love that. I took that
Yeah.
shot because it represented and matched
Yeah.
the necklace.
So here's another point. This is the Western Wall. And I had a few moments where this is on Sunday morning for us. And when I went down there, it was about 6 o'clock your time here. And I just, this is one of those opportunities where I just said, you know what, I'm going. I know we have another commitment to make, but, and they gave us about 15 minutes. But I went down to the wall, and I placed a prayer in there, and, in a cubby hole or whatever. And then I just had a moment where I just, it's one of those points where, like, what do I pray, Lord? I'm at the Western Wall. What do I pray? So I just began to pray in the Spirit. And it just, as I was praying in the Spirit, I was thinking about the service that you guys were fixing to have. So I was praying for the service here. And,
Right, he texted you about that, didn't he?
And so it was just more of just, what, I just wanted to bless you guys from Israel. Just bless the service here from Israel. I mean, the same God that's over there is the same God that was right here, And it doesn't really matter where you pray, but it was just that God put you guys on my heart, along with, a few other things. But it was just a very powerful moment. And everybody was like, hey, you got to get here. Somebody was coming after me, whatever, because we had this other tour that we were going on. But that was another powerful moment where I was just able to just take a few moments and just pray in the Spirit, at a place that, we know that Jesus probably walked along, or, whatever the case may be.
So on Shabbat, we actually went to the Western Wall first. It was very short. It was so crowded, he couldn't get to the wall. Interesting story with what they consider work on Shabbat. me and the mom of the group we were with, just love that lady. She was like my best pal. 84, and she did everything we did except for climb Engedi and the Dead Sea. All that walking, 84, she did way better than we did. But so on Shabbat, we went to the Wailing Wall the first time. So Jill had told us there's little tables down there. You can go down, write your prayer, and then go put it in the wall, blah, blah, blah. So Sharon and I were like, the tables are full, so there's gray posts, so we're writing on there. And this really nice gentleman comes up who works there. And he says, excuse me, you guys can't do that here. And I said, oh, we were told we could write. Yeah. He goes, no, that's works. You have to do that back there on Shabbat. Then bring your prayer down. And then also to honor the wall, you walk backwards away from it for whatever distance you deem. And so I was like, oh, I said, we're so sorry. He goes, no, it's okay. And I just thanked him for teaching us. That was my heart, was thank you for teaching us. Because, you know, you just don't, oh, I'm writing a prayer. How is that? I didn't consider it work, but I know they do. But it didn't dawn on me. So anyway, he's a really nice guy. And he said, it's funny, there's a sign up front that says, write your prayer here, can't do it down there on Shabbat. And he said, I find it so funny, people take pictures of that sign, but they don't read it. And then they come down here and do their prayer. But he was just, so I'm like, thank you for teaching us. We want to learn. So I got to the wall that day. He couldn't because the guy's side was just nuts.
Yep.
So on Shabbat, I got to do the wall before that dinner.
Yep.
So.
Here we are. So this is the next tour. So this is the Western Wall Tunnel Tour. And so they took us down below. And at this level here is where King Hezekiah was building the walls. And where I'm standing at here to that person down there, that's one stone that's over 11 meters long. And my mind boggles, like, how did these guys move these heavy stones
Very carefully.
and put them into place and stuff like that? So this is down below. There's a lot of excavation or archaeological digging going on underneath the temple, and they're finding a lot of stuff. They're finding a lot of rooms and everything like that. It's exciting because they're, you know, we're living in the last days. And
Can I, real quick? The one real cool thing was Joan had mentioned when we were going, she's like, I can't wait to see some pictures, because from how long she went, what is new that we saw that was still buried when some of y'all were there before. But, so I'm asking you, the beveled, isn't that the sign of the original?
Yeah.
So if the rocks have that beveled, that thing, those are the original.
Yeah. It was
stones.
whatever, because there's like Hezekiah, Herod, and there's a couple other ones with H, but Herod had his specific design on the rock.
So anytime you see those in the pictures, they are original.
And here I am. That's my foot on original pavement from, you know, probably back in. That's the original ground sidewalk or whatever. So it was just, I'm walking on 4,000, 5,000-year-old pavement right there. So it was just goofy. And then this is kind of another little narrow thing that, as long as there's nobody around me, I can get through it and stuff like that.
And it helped, it was tall.
Yeah, and it was like a lot higher there. Shofar blowers, pay attention. Where's my shofar blowers at? That's the corner that is appointed for shofar blowers to blow the shofar. And I just wanted to show it from this because there's some other pictures I'm fixing to show here. And this is another point of where it was, you know, very poignant for me on that. But that's the southwest corner of the temple, or the city of Jerusalem, where the shofars were blowing. And if you can read this, it says, among the collapse, so there was a stone that the Romans just, you know, pushed over, and they were trying to kill people at the bottom. But one of the stones that they pushed over says, among the collapsed stones was one, and there was a replica there, but the actual stone is in a museum, which bore a Hebrew inscription, to the place of trumpeting to, and then ... So it was just a partial. In the Second Temple days, this stone probably marked the place at the top of the southwest corner of the Temple Mount where the trumpeter announced the inauguration of the inauguration and close of the Sabbath. So again, that's the appointed place for the shofar blower on that. Here's the actual, not the actual, but this is the replica stone that they put there in the place that they found it. And then you can kind of see the inscription on that broken up piece up there, what they read. And here I am standing next to the place where shofar blowers are appointed to stand on that. There's a Stars and Bucks Cafe over there, not Starbucks, but a Stars and Bucks Cafe. This is over in Bethlehem. And when we went over there, we didn't go to the nativity scene or anything like where the church is at and whatnot, but we went to the shepherd's field. And this is just, it's a cool fountain that I saw where there's a shepherd standing up top there, and he's got his sheep and rams down below there. So this is just another point where we were reflecting, and so we were at a spot where we're overlooking the hills where the shepherds were when they saw the star, when they announced Jesus' birth. And it was just kind of more real, more personal that we saw that landscape there. And of course, you know, you see all the buildings on there, but take those buildings away, and what do you see? Shepherds out there guarding their flocks by night, and then they, you know, were there when Jesus announced his birth. This is the organization we support. It's Bridges for Peace. And we had an afternoon there where we just did volunteer work and what we did. And there's countries around the world support this organization. I mean, and they come from all over the world to help do some of the things that they do over there. And here we are packing. Our goal was to hit about 1,500 school packets for kids over there because they supply school supplies for kids that have been that immigrate over there, and they have a lot of things. I don't want to get into it because I know we're running a little over, but there's just some testimonies of what this organization does for kids. They have an adoption program, Feel the Child. These guys serve about 24 tons of food a month to families over there in Israel, anywhere from Holocaust survivors to new families that are just arriving. They supply necessities like, you know, pots and pans, and actually I was putting a couch together for a Ukraine family that immigrated over there, and all the people that are immigrating from it, they're arriving with whatever they can carry. They don't have anything, and a lot of times it's women and children because the men have to stay behind to fight the war. Or whatever the case may be. So this organization helps those families get established, and they help them get to go to school to learn the Hebrew, to do, you know, just to integrate into the Jewish lifestyle there. And these are all people that have papers of Jewish roots. They're not just somebody that's like trying to escape, you know, Ukraine, but they have Jewish roots. They can prove it, and Israel allows them to come over, and then they help get them established into the society over there. Did you have a question? That was my question. Oh, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, there's, you know, all kinds of stuff on here. They've helped them with bomb shelters, the school, the kids. So they gave them backpacks with all of the supplies in there and stuff like that. So that's where we were at on Monday afternoon, and we're getting ready to wrap this up. This is the next day, Tuesday. This is the menorah, and this one, menorah, it says here that the menorah is fit for lighting in the temple. So it's an actual menorah that can be used when the temple is rebuilt, that they have on display in the Jewish area, Jewish quarter of Jerusalem there. And there we are in front of it. And then this is just some of the streets. It's kind of like a little shopping area where there were little vendors and stuff like that in the mall, street mall and stuff like that. And just the narrow streets. It was just a phenomenal place, you know, and this is all in the Jewish area. It's really kind of, you can see the night and day between the Jewish and the Muslim, you know, the Palestinian area. They don't keep it as well. It's a lot more, just darker, you know, whatever. But over here in the Jewish, they have it's a lot better kept and stuff like that. And then the last point here, this is the last place we went to was Yad. What's that? Yeah, Yad Vashem. So this is the Holocaust Museum. Very, very powerful. We've been, when we were stationed in Germany, we went to Dachau, and Dachau was a lot more darker. This was still dark, but it wasn't as graphic as some of the things that we saw in Dachau that the Germans were, it seemed like they were proud of it or whatever. But It says dedicated to the survivors who through their lives bear the memory. And so that's the one part of there. And then here, it says here, I will put my breath into you and you shall live again, and I will set you upon your own soul. And that's in Ezekiel 37:14. And then I just wanted to share something real quick out of Zechariah. So the last evening there, our tour guide brought in a rabbi. No.
Because you don't have all that, do you?
Oh, Rabbi Pesach Wolicki. And he's a very well-known rabbi. He travels the United States to share about the relationship with Christians, and he actually has a podcast with another Christian. And it's something that's, from what I understand, their conversations can be quite hilarious, and things like that, So, but one of the things that he shared there, and she's going to help me because I'm going to, about...
Okay, the first thing he said is the last one to recognize a miracle is the one it's happening to.
Okay, so think about that. If you were, okay, and then...
The last part?
About the... You can do the shoulder to shoulder, but I'm going to do the... you can kind of
Okay.
do the prophecy too.
You want me to read the fulfilling?
No,
Or the shoulder to shoulder?
shoulder, shoulder.
So, Zephaniah 3:9. Y'all, it's so simple, but it's, anyway. So, Zephaniah 3:9, if you read it, it says, we'll do it shoulder to shoulder. So when he said that, I'm like, but that's still separated. That's two shoulders together working. You can still move apart. You can still drop things because you're shoulder to shoulder. He said in Hebrew, it's do it as one shoulder. So we are one with them. But he said he's never found an English translation that says that. It's all shoulder to shoulder. But as soon as he said it, I'm like, shoulder to shoulders can separate. So you're still not together. You're momentarily. But it's as one shoulder is what it says in Hebrew, that we will do it as one shoulder. You can't break that.
So, another part, and I'll let her wrap it up with the last saying on this, but he went to Zechariah 8, and this is what's really powerful because of the end times. It says, again, the word of the Lord of hosts came saying, thus says the Lord of hosts, I am zealous for Zion with great zeal. With great fervor I am zealous for her. And thus says the Lord, I will return to Zion, and dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall be called the city of truth, the mountain of the Lord of hosts, the holy mountain. Thus says the Lord of hosts, old men and old women shall again sit in the streets of Jerusalem. We saw old men and women sitting in the streets of Jerusalem.
They are.
Each one with his staff in his hand because of great age. The streets of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets. It was at one point we were staying, and we heard kids playing on the playground over there. And they have playgrounds all over the place in Jerusalem.
They build tons of playgrounds. They want the kids playing.
And they're playing in the streets of Jerusalem. This is prophecy right here. Thus says the Lord of hosts, if it is marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of these people in these days, will it also be marvelous in my eyes, says the Lord of hosts. And then down here towards the bottom of it, it says, thus says the Lord of hosts, peoples shall yet come, inhabitants of many cities. So people from other cities that are inhabiting are coming to Jerusalem. The inhabitants of one city shall say to another, saying, let us continue to go and pray before the Lord and seek the Lord of hosts, and I myself will go. So we had somebody from Vermont that said, hey, let's go to Jerusalem together. This family that's from Oregon came and said, hey, they had family in Colorado. Let's go to Jerusalem and pray together. So there's prophet, and people are doing it all over the world that they're taking. Let's go to Jerusalem and see what it's all about. Here's prophecy Zechariah is talking about. That let us continue to go pray before the Lord and seek the Lord of hosts. And I myself will go also. Yes, many peoples and strong nations shall come to seek the Lord of the hosts in Jerusalem. Let me say that again. Many peoples and strong nations shall come to seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem and pray before the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, in those days 10 men from every language of all nations shall grasp the sleeve of a Jewish man, saying, let us go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. So this rabbi finishes with this thought.
So he says to us, the last person to see or fulfilling a prophecy is the person that's fulfilling it. And he's looking at us, having read that we are sitting there. We are part of that prophecy, and anyone that has gone or will go is fulfilling that prophecy. He said, when you visit Israel, you join with the biblical story and prophecy. And we're sitting there.
Yep.
Who knew? When I'm thinking, what, little old Lisa gets to go? And I was actually a fulfillment of prophecy. Mind blown. I mean, there's no words. Literally. Well, obviously there is because I'm talking. But you know what I mean.
So it's exciting. We're living in the last days. It's exciting that God is coming back and prophecy is being fulfilled. So just keep looking. Just keep waiting. Keep watching. And again, with our most heartfelt thank you for allowing us to go to Israel.
And I know we ran over, but thank you for thank you for letting us share. It meant the world to us. I appreciate it.